Hi, this is Rob Sheen with the Source Conference, and I'm here with Dr. Stacy Thayer, who has a background in cyber psychology and behavior, and she's also, coincidentally, the original founder of the Source Conference. So we've come full circle now. We have her on the podcast as a speaker now. So she's going to be speaking at Source Austin on December 5th and 6th, and the title of her talk is Put Your Oxygen Mask On Before Assisting Others, Self-Care and Security. Now, that's a topic that's been evolving over the years, and I'm glad that we've been doing it because there has been a lot of instances of burnout and things like that. So, how do you define self-care?
So, first off, thank you for the experience of being able to have the opportunity to speak at Source. It's really an honor and of course, very special to me to see how you've grown it and then to have the opportunity to be a speaker. So I'm really excited and honored to have the chance to have that speaker experience. So when I look at self-care, and the way that I define it in terms of put your oxygen mask on first, just like they say when you're on the airplane, is that when you're working on anything, especially when you're working with people, if you're not okay, if you're not at your best mentally, if you are challenged by yourself and find yourself frustrated or upset or not working at your best, you need to take that time and get yourself balanced. And what we're seeing, especially in the security industry, is that, and actually in a lot of industries, that the notion of taking vacation time, a lot of people don't actually take their allotted vacation time. Despite it being a policy, they let it accrue, or they just don't bother using it. They would rather go into work or work from home, and they're not taking that time to say what's good for my mental health. And what happens is you're putting too much of yourself into your job. And why I think this is interesting to the security industry is because many people in the security industry are specifically in roles where their job is to protect and take care of the security and safety of an organization. Yet what they're not doing a lot of times is taking care of the safety and security of themselves. And this is, and I've been on panels, and Hunt talks about burnout in the security industry, about addiction in the security industry, and about how is it that in a basically what's an industry that could be quite a pressure cooker, how are people coping? And so that's why when I talk about self-care, it's to find a positive way to release some of the tension that you experience from the stress of the job. That's not burning out completely. That's not turning to drinking and drugs. And unfortunately, there's been a high rate of suicide in the industry as well. And I think, as you were saying, that's why it's been a topic that's been kind of a hot topic lately, because we're realizing that both as employees and as managers, we're not seeing people who realize this is what I need to do to acknowledge my own mental health.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been trying to add into Source specifically is this whole people track specifically for these kinds of reasons, like a way to have more balance and not just always be focused on, got to get the job done. Because I have found for myself, just, I've been an entrepreneur now since 2007 and running my own stuff. And I totally hear you on the vacation thing. Like, sometimes I have to make myself take a break. And I've learned over the years how to manage that in a way where I actually all right, if I'm feeling stressed out, it's more productive for me to do nothing for a little while and go away and do something else than it is to sometimes push. I'm the kind of person that it's 3 a.m. I'm like, I could just pull off this all-nighter and I'll be fine. But then I'll be a wreck for the next 3 days, and that doesn't help me. So, having that balance is definitely, it's challenging sometimes.
Yeah, and especially now, I mean, putting our phones down. I'm the worst person. When I was working in an office environment, it'd be 9 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, now's a really good time to send out a series of emails. And my own supervisor, who was really wonderful with me, and she would say, at the end of the day, put the job down and go home, and then pick it up in the morning. and
Right.
not to get into the habit of this 24-hour availability, because once you start with that, once and they know, oh, I can email at any time, you're setting the precedent for not being able to take time for yourself,
Right.
because we become a culture of, well, it's taken more than an hour for somebody to reply to my email, what's that about?
I know. God forbid.
uh,
Right.
God forbid, yeah, God forbid you're home, having a night just chilling out and not checking your phone. That's really hard to do. We don't disconnect enough,
Mm.
and I think what happens though also when I've seen people disconnect, it's done in a way that is, I'm going to disconnect now, and it becomes almost very dramatic in a way of doing it, as opposed to
Right.
kind of a, I'm going to disconnect right now, and this is about my mental health, and I'm going to kind of quietly take some time for myself.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big mic drop every time. It's just,
Right, right, right. There doesn't have to be the big announcement. I'm leaving Facebook for a while.
right, right. And you see those
Take your
from
time.
time to time from people. Like clearly they've
Yeah,
gotten too far down that rabbit hole. Now it's interesting. I find now, especially with more people working from home, it's especially challenging to balance that when there really is no hard line between work and home anymore. You're just kind of you're on
yeah,
part of the day, you're off part of the day, you're on part of the day, and it just kind of feels like all day, every day becomes work if you aren't careful. How do you
right.
kind of recommend that people manage that?
Yeah. Um, Again, setting times of scheduling like you would in a day. That to say, okay, from 6 to 8, this is when I'm not going to be working, or this is how I'm going to have a schedule. And it becomes easy to just let the day be fluid, but it really it takes discipline to have that time. And I think what also happens is we hear kind of almost what becomes stereotypical: take the time, breathe, whatever, and we all say to do it, but then we never end up doing it. And it sounds almost cliche. And it almost sounds like a self-help guru. And I think a lot of people just, well, oh, I'm not going to, not going to meditate. If I had the amount of people that came up to me and said, have you tried meditation? And I know it works for a lot of people, but I'd always be like, stop telling me to meditate. Like, that's not what I mean. Like, and it's about giving things a chance, that not
Mm,
everything is going to be for everybody, but find out what works for you in
right.
the course of a day. Uh, Even if it's taking 10 minutes to play your video game, or go for a walk, or
Yep.
play with your kids, or do nothing. Just sit there and just veg out for a little while. There's no rules, because everybody's self-care is going to be different.
Yep. Yeah, for me, like my last company, by the time I was done with it, I was so burned out that I ended up taking a couple years mostly off, just kind of hanging
Yep.
out. And I swore to myself when I started this one that I was, no matter what, I was going to clip my bonsai trees and check out, and play around with those. And like every day, I'm going to go out and check my bonsai trees. And, that gives me something. And I have a lot of them. So I'm just kind of, that's just, I've gone deep down that rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
I found I was, in my last company, I was kind of neglecting them and ignoring them. And I could tell because they would start to die and not look very nice. And, so it was just little things like that. Just like taking the time
Yeah.
to just do something that you care about that's not work is useful, and
Hmm.
um, taking 5 minutes out to play a
What
video game or something is a useful thing,
Yeah,
I
to
find.
ask your question, what else do I do? Like, if you had to look at your life and kind of put it all on paper and say, where's the balance?
Hmm.
And you say, okay, here's work. What else do I do besides work? And a lot, I didn't always have a great answer for that question. And
Hmm.
then it became like, oh, okay, I read, or I had to think about it.
Right.
The other part that's really important, though, is also for managers, because as managers, being able to recognize an employee in distress
Hmm.
is an important skill, because that's something that I've seen really wonderful managers. I've been blessed to have wonderful managers that cared a
Hmm.
lot about my mental health and about making sure that I was in an okay place, and I've had ones that didn't. And one of the things that I had done some research on was this concept of organizational citizenship, and basically employee engagement. And
Hmm.
how do you keep your employees invested in their job and good at what they're doing? And part of that largely has to do with their mental health and job satisfaction. And so for a manager to be able to recognize, hey, you know what, you have been here working late for the past week or so, why don't you take a day off?
Hmm.
Or why don't you take some time? This is, and acknowledging you were doing a good job, or maybe this could be better, but in a more constructive way, in a more respectful way, and taking just in general a lot more care for yourself as a manager. So again, making sure that if you are a manager, you're in a good place to then be a better manager for your people, to help them help themselves too.
Right. Yeah, I know. I think we've all heard the horror stories of the managers that, just don't respect people's time off and call them at
Yeah.
really inappropriate times and expect things right now. And, you know, I,
No.
I've always been surprised by that because A, it's really hard to find good people, and B, isn't it obvious that if you treat people like that, they're going to eventually leave? Like, I never understood that mentality of just abusing your people. But
Right.
yeah, hopefully more and more managers are starting to get that, people are part of your team and, need to have
Yeah.
that balance in their lives. Or they're just, going to go find someplace else that gives it to them.
And people will reach out for help somewhere. I mean, there are people in the security industry, and I can name a couple that are just absolutely wonderful at how they care for other people. And they have a list of people that they reach out to and call just to say,
Hmm.
hey, how is it going? And that is because they have recognized they've reached that level of, ooh, I know when I'm not okay. I know what it means to have that
Hmm.
need for self-care. And even if it's just to say, now I know not everybody says I need a hug. I know hugging's a thing for some people, but or just to be able to say I need somebody to reach out. Who is somebody that I can call, or who is somebody that I can talk to, or send a message to. um that whatever it is, doesn't have to be other people, but what is your safety net? What is your oxygen mask
Hmm.
that you're going to put on to take care of yourself? And then of course the next thing is, you don't just sit there with the oxygen mask. Then how do you then pass that along to other people to help them?
Right.
But if you're not taking care of yourself, it is very hard to take care of anybody else or be the best that you can be.
Yeah, definitely. And just a plug for walks. Walks are great. Like nothing clears your head
Yes.
quite like a walk in my experience. And I will
Yeah.
give you a plus one plug for meditation. As uh, as someone who likes to occasionally meditate, it is a useful thing, and it's one of those things. If you've never done it or been trained in there's a learning curve, and the learning curve is not
God, I'm
obvious.
terrible at
And well, that
it.
the part of the being good at it is just kind of stop trying to be good at it. It's just like the whole point is just to sit there and let things go and not worry about it. And a lot of people get so fixated. I can't stop thinking. Well, that's
I know,
kind of
I know, yeah.
hint, hint.
But I
That's
mean,
why you need to meditate.
I know. But I guess at the end of the day, it's everybody should have something, whatever
Yeah,
it
as
is.
long as you have something, it
If you
doesn't. Everybody's
if
got
you
their own
if you have
thing.
to ask yourself, what do I do to relax?
Yep,
And that everybody should have an answer to that question.
yep,
And it's a fine line because for a lot of people, it's what do I do to relax? Oh, I have a beer.
right.
Or I smoke, or I do, and I like to encourage, and not with judgment, but encourage. Is it something that you're doing that's also healthy for you? Because there's been numerous talks about addiction cycles and the amount of drinking in the security industry
Right.
for a lot of different reasons. And so, what are the alternatives that could be healthier behaviors? And
Yep.
again, as managers and as either founders or company owners, is how are you basically creating what is a healthy environment for you, for your people, and for the company? Because they are all tied systematically
Mhm.
together. And again, if you care for one, it's going to go into the others, and you'll just be better off and a more efficient company, with hopefully more efficient results too.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having a beer to relax it, but if that's the only way you can relax, then you probably want to look at
Right,
that. That's
right,
that's usually
right,
where you've crossed some kind of a line somewhere along the way. So, um,
right.
I mean, I love having a beer to relax, but I also have 16 other things I can do to relax that don't involve alcohol. So,
Yeah,
it's good to have those things built up, and I've built that up over time intentionally. That's not like an
yeah.
accident. It's definitely not something that they teach you really in school, and um, you know,
Mm-mm. And what do
Like
you do?
that,
It's like you go out with your friends and you have a beer or you have a glass of wine or
right.
I mean, I get that as now as a mom. I mean, the amount of all right, moms, we're going out for a glass of wine, and no, I don't drink, but I enjoy going out with them and I have my sparkling water and it's fine.
Mm.
And I focus on the fact that well, one, I live in California, so despite when it's not on fire, the weather's quite lovely and I enjoy that. And it's just I try and be mindfulness is actually for me. It's not meditation, but mindfulness and
Hmm.
awareness uh of where I'm holding the tension,
Yep.
even just in my body, even just body awareness,
Hmm.
or kind of sometimes I'll scan through my head and go, okay, where am I stressed? This, and I'll almost a list of different things that'll go through
Yep.
my head. And when I hit what's bothering me, I feel the tension. And
Hmm.
it's I also find it interesting. There's a big stigma against mental health. Yet if you were to say, "Oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm getting a trainer and I'm going to the gym," everyone's like, "Hey, that's great. You're going to have somebody who's going to teach you how to do your exercises correctly."
Hmm.
And really seeking therapy or seeking mental health resources, it's the same thing. It's just for your mind.
Right.
And whether that is through religion or through meditation or whatever, I mean, your mind needs as much exercise as your body does, and
Hmm.
there can be that balance too for self care too. Mind, body, and spirit can all be related to self care.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And what you just said about, I feel feeling we can have this conversation for hours now. But
I know, right?
so this is gonna be a fun conversation at the
But
at the conference. But what you did
yes,
just a point on what you said about as you're scanning your mind, looking for points of tension, things that you're stressed about. Like I do some very similar types of things, and that absolutely works. And one thing I can tell you is when you notice those things, they tend to be little triggers that get you to go, right? Now, here's the cool thing. Like, those triggers are basically just chemical reactions within your body. Like, your organs are just
right.
giving you little squirts of chemicals that makes you feel a certain way. There's actually been studies, like, any given feeling that comes up, if you just breathe through it, like, it dissipates within a few minutes, like, if you let it. But it's only if you fixate on it, it'll re-trigger itself over and over and over again. So
The
you can make
ruminating,
yourself
repeating
stay in
stuff.
that space, or
Yeah.
you can just kind of breathe and kind of try to release it. And once you get practiced at that, you can let that stuff go really fast, and you end up not, even if you're in a very stressful situation, you don't have to own that stress and kind of hold on to it as much, if that makes
And
any
so,
sense.
what I really want to focus on, just to get back to the with in relation to the talk, my takeaways that I hope people will walk away with. It's my goal is not, I can say, for not to get up there and say, okay, just do this, just do that, and do this, because I know I've been at the receiving end of that, and I'm like,
Hmm.
whatever, that's not going to work. What I want people to walk away with is realizing that self care is a thing, and it's a
Hmm.
question to ask yourself. What am I doing? When am I stressed? And how do I know? Because
Right.
everybody should have that scale of at least being able to know when am I hitting the red zone? What does my green, yellow, and red zone look like? And where am I falling on that? And
Hmm.
so to be able to recognize that, and then to be able to understand how being able to take care of that and address that and come at a place where you're in the green or maybe in the yellow zone, how that really can result in a happier environment, both at home, both in the workplace, and for the people around you. So it's not only for people who are in the security industries, for managers too, and how they manage people. And again, I tie it to the security industry because it does fascinate me that it is an industry that does focus a lot on, or it bears the weight of of protecting and caring for an organization and keeping it
Hmm.
safe and keeping it secure. And so how can we take the skills that these people are using for their job and then almost turn that around and treat them with the same care and protection as they do the job in the company that they're protecting.
Right. That's great. All right. Well, I definitely look forward to seeing the talk. And again, Stacy's going to be at Source Austin December 5th and 6th,
So
coming up
excited.
coming up very quick. And thanks for joining us, by the way, because Stacy's dialing in all the way from New Zealand from a vacation right
I
now. So
am.
took time out of your trip to in your room service to join us on the call and
Yes.
chat with us about this. So thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Happy to do it.
All right,
All
cool.
right. All right. So I'll see you in Austin.
See you in Austin. Talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.